Today I'm doing one of my favorite formats on this channel where we shine the spotlight on one particular place. You've read the title, you know what it is. West Virginia is the star of the show today. Anyone in the audience from there have any connection to anything on the list? Let me know your thoughts down below. That said, I'm your host James, and these are the top 10 scary West Virginia urban legends that are pure evil. And we're gonna start things off with my favorite topic, cryptids, with the Flatwoods Monster. The initial report of this creature is incredibly odd. This is not like most cryptids you hear about. The incident occurred on the night of September 12th, 1952, when 6 youths were playing a football game which was suddenly interrupted when the sky was lit up by a bright fireball-looking object that plummeted towards the earth, landing in a hillside. The boys, joined by a local woman by the name of Kathleen May, went to investigate. When they got to the hill, there was suddenly another burst of bright light. They turned to look in the direction of it and saw what was soon deemed to be the Flatwoods Monster. It looked to be about 12 feet tall. It was Christmassy because it had a red face and wore bright green clothing. Most odd though was that its head was shaped like the ace of spades, and it was floating in midair towards the group. The creature was never seen again, but everyone in the group swore up and down that they saw what they saw. Was it an alien, a ghost, some other bizarre creature, a mix of all three? Perhaps one day it'll come back to interrupt another game of nighttime football, but for now, the Flatwoods Monster lives on in the hearts of many West Virginia locals in the form of legend. Next up we have Ogua. Ogua is an elusive creature which is said to roam the Monongalia River of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Native tribes were familiar with this aquatic creature, warning European settlers of its presence. Described as a large aquatic beast, Ogua was known for its ability to snatch victims from the water's edge with its powerful jaws and drag them beneath the river's surface, where it would drown and store them in its den later. If you think you're safe as long as you don't get too close to the water, not quite the case. Ogua can also survive on land. With 4 stubby legs instead of fins or flippers, it can swiftly strike at prey on the shore and chase them down if it really needs to. Stories often recounted the creature's reddish-brown, turtle-like appearance, measuring nearly 20 feet in length and weighing approximately 500 pounds. Its long, thick tail left deep slide marks in the earth as it dragged its victims back into the water. Some researchers speculate that Ogua legends may have originated from a rogue alligator that ventured into the river through the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. Other people say that an oversized alligator or snapping turtle might be the culprit. The Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston. It operated from 1864 to 1994 before finally being shut down, and most of the buildings on the property are prohibited for visitors. They're structurally unsound and unmaintained, but other parts of the facility are open for ghost tours, ghost hunts, and even overnight stays. As with many facilities like this back in the day, the practices taking place were cruel and inhumane. Mental health was not dealt with anywhere close to, how it is now, and the place had only been built to house 250 patients, but at one point there were closer to 2,400 patients at the facility. That is some pretty severe overcrowding, and overcrowding in combination with already poor treatment of patients, can only imagine what kind of hell these people were going through. And it's for this reason that the now abandoned asylum is believed to be haunted, with the spirits of the patients still trapped within its walls. Number 7. The Sodder children disappearance. On Christmas Eve of 1945, there was a terrible fire at the Sodder family home. The parents, 2 Italian immigrants, George and Jenny, and 4 of their 9 children managed to escape, but the other 5 perished in the fire. Or did they? The thing is, their bodies were never found. Now, if there were just 1 or 2 who weren't found, okay, maybe they got a little extra crispy, just turned to dust. But none of them turning up, that's pretty odd, and this was a big part of the reason that the parents believed that they were still alive. They also didn't agree with authorities when they said the fire had started from an electrical issue. George attested to the fact that the home was just recently rewired and inspected, so if the 5 young family members hadn't died in the fire, then where were they? George and Jenny believed that they had possibly been kidnapped and that the fire was arson, with the perpetrators being members of the the Sicilian Mafia. George had been very outspoken about his criticism of the fascist government of Italy. Number 6, we have the Eaton Tunnel. The Eaton Tunnel in West Virginia, also known as the Lost Tunnel, is said to be haunted. Built as part of the Parkersburg branch of the Northwestern Virginia Railroad in 1857. This tunnel, along with 22 others, witnessed the loss of a number of lives during its construction. Reports of haunting experiences in and around the Eaton Tunnel include eerie incidents that date back to its construction. In 1854, a man met his demise when rocks fell on him while building the tunnel. In 1855, Terry Duffy tragically lost his life when a rope carrying rocks accidentally caught him and sent him plummeting 125 feet down the shaft. The tunnel's dark history continued in 1865 when a rock fell, claimed the lives of 3 men and seriously injured a woman. Cholera swept through the nearby mining camp in 1866, leading to the deaths of 15 people in just 4 days. Rock falls in 1867 and 1875 claimed the lives of multiple workers. And train accidents in 1877, 1890, and 1907 resulted in even more fatalities. So numerous tragedies are associated with the Eaton Tunnel, so it comes to no surprise that people have reported hearing ghostly voices from deep within it. Some have claimed to hear the soft voice of a woman pleading for help. Others have heard the chatter of men as though they were a group of laborers working inside the tunnel. Next up is the haunted West Virginia Penitentiary. Said to be one of the most haunted prisons in the United States, if not the world. It operated from 1876 until its closure in 1995. The prison has a long history of violence, brutality, and death. The overcrowded and unsanitary conditions gave rise to a multitude of violent incidents, riots, deadly clashes among inmates. Then you have the electric chair. In its earlier days, public hangings were also conducted within the prison. So given the grim history of violence and death at this Gothic-style prison, a number of reports of paranormal activity have surfaced over the years. The building, which is still standing today, offers ghost tours to visitors and investigators, and many have reported unsettling experiences during their visits. At our number 4 spot, we have the case of Mamie Thurman. On June 22nd, 1932, the body of a woman was found in a blackberry bush on 22 Mine Road near Holden by a young boy. Her throat had been slashed and there were 2 gunshot wounds in her head. It seemed that the motive here was personal, and it wasn't just the brutality of the attack either. Robbery had been ruled out as she had expensive jewelry on her. So, who did it and why? Well, 2 suspects were arrested: Harry Robertson, Mamie and her husband's landlord, and Charles Stevenson, Harry's handyman, who also lived in the same house. Stevenson ended up taking the blame for the crime, but this was highly suspect. What was his motive? It was Harry Robertson, who had been having an affair with Thurman. And not only that, but she was also known to have been seeing about a dozen other prominent and powerful men on the side as well. Could they have somehow been involved? Till this day, the case is still murky. Number 3, the Dingess Tunnel. One of the few ways to reach the small remote town of Dingess in Mingo County. 2 hilarious names, Dingess, Mingo County. Anyway, the only way to really access this small town is through the Dingess Tunnel, a mile-long, single-lane tunnel that is said to be haunted. The town of Dingess was pretty lawless back in the day. A large part of the violence came from the fact that the locals did not like outsiders, primarily those that didn't look like them. African Americans and Chinese immigrants coming through the tunnel would often come face to face with angry locals at the other end, brandishing guns, looking to keep them out. Now, aside from the violent and dark history here, the tunnel's also seen a large number of accidents throughout its history. It's just dangerous. The tunnel is narrow, dark, and once again, only 1 lane, so collisions have been known to happen. You probably all know where this is going by now. Yes, we have another supposedly haunted tunnel on our hands. People have heard disembodied voices coming from its depths, full-on apparitions, and if ghosts do exist, with all the dark stuff that's happened here over the years, it makes sense that this would be a hotspot for them. In at number 2 is Moth Man, a true star of the cryptid community. If there was a Mount Rushmore of cryptids, Moth Man would be right there with Nessie, Bigfoot, and the Chupacabra. The legend began in November of 1966 when several residents reported seeing a strange human-sized creature with large wings fiery red eyes, and a moth-like appearance. Witnesses claimed that this creature could fly at high speeds and emitted a high-pitched, eerie screech. The sightings of Mothman were accompanied by various reports of unexplained phenomena, including electrical disturbances, strange lights in the sky, and eerie encounters with the creature. The events culminated in the tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge in December of 1967, resulting in the deaths of 46 people. Some associated Mothman sightings with this disaster, that perhaps the creature was some sort of harbinger of doom. Finally, we have the legend of Screaming Jenny. The railroad tracks in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia are said to be haunted by the tortured spirit of Screaming Jenny. At some point in the mid-19th century, shortly after the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad was built, the storage sheds along the tracks were abandoned, and these sheds became the perfect shelter for homeless residents of the area, one of which was Jenny. Jenny didn't have much. That's why she was living in a shed next to some train tracks, after all. She did odd jobs here and there to help sustain herself, but at night all she had was her small fireplace and whatever little amount of food she could afford. One night she was drinking some soup, shivering over her fire, when a spark landed on her clothes, slowly setting them on fire. Jenny was too tired and cold to notice though, until the fire burnt through to her skin, and she immediately stood up and began doing what a Screaming Jenny does best: scream. She ran from her shed yelling for help and was too busy being on fire to notice the lights of a train heading straight for her. It's said that one night, about a month after Jenny's death, a train driver was passing by the same area of track where she had died. He saw a figure writhing on fire in the middle of the track. He couldn't stop the train in time, but ran back to the area once he was able to stop to okay or help them the best way he could, but there was nothing there. To this day, especially on cold autumn nights, some residents claim to hear the ghostly screams of Jenny coming from the tracks. All that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.